All right. So I want just to, well, first of all, welcome to Aditi, Nigesh, and Patrick. I think we didn't have as many people show up yet, but hopefully this recording still can be helpful for some of you, either, look back or, review some of that for your future and some of the common questions as well. And with that said, I want to, if you can, so the goal is this. One is, first we start with, what do you like to share with the group, and or what do you like to learn from each other? And then obviously we can go from there, share a little bit more of your journey, your struggle, and then questions you have. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So, so thank you for sharing that your interest, your background in app development to solution architect, and then come back to today in terms of looking to what is today's common practice of software TPMs. Sort of in today's call, is there anything else I missed in your recap, in your intro, Lily?
Yeah, and just learning from the team if people have worked in operations, program management, and how do we, compare and contrast the two?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So actually we didn't, so how about Patrick or Nigesh, do you guys want to do a quick intro yourself, which area you are in, and then maybe a little bit about what you like to either share or learn from the group?
Sure. I can go next. My name is Patrick Isaacs, and currently I am a senior technical program manager at Chime. I started on May 19th, so it's recent. But previous to that, I was the VP of project management for a digital marketing agency called Jellyfish in Baltimore. And then the two organizations prior to that were really heavy into technical program management. So one was Big Commerce, where I had the pleasure of learning immense things from Becky. So yes, Becky is my mentor, and I tried to absorb as much as I can during my time at Big Commerce, and I felt ready. I was excited. I wanted to learn more and build a team, and that allowed me to jump into building a team at WP Engine, which was in Austin, Texas. It was and in both orgs, they were embedded within the engineering team. And then I made a transition to digital marketing, where there was something that I was missing. And what was missing was the technical aspects, the engineering, the product, the team that I was working with. And that's what made me go to Chime. The next piece is, what do I want to share, or what I want to learn from this group or community that we're building is, I want to pay it forward, being able to share my experience, because I came from a non-traditional background where I was in the military, and then went into construction project management, and then went into the startup life, and then I got into the TPM lifestyle, and and I also want to learn from the group, because I feel like I don't want to get stagnant. And like you mentioned, Aditi, there are different facets and different practices around, and I just want to absorb that as well and learn from the team.
Cool, thanks, Patrick. Nigesh, do you like to share a little bit of your background and what you're interested in sharing or from this group?
Sorry guys, I'm multitasking. We have a deployment today, so are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I am working as a senior project manager for a large bank, commercial bank. So currently I'm working on a Salesforce app development and deployment. So basically this is for a loan servicing organization. So my background is entire career I spent only in the financial sector, basically in delivery, project management, program management, design, and basically the BAU support. So my goal is basically share my knowledge and skills, and also learn from the other members what are the best practices, what are the new items, new technologies.
That's awesome. Wow. Deploy right before the long weekend. Ooh.
Yeah.
TPS style.
Yeah, banks are doing a lot of work for PPP, right? So we are doing a lot of work for. So we are just waiting for the regulations to change. Whenever something changes, we meet the customers. So it is an opportunity to help the customers, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are suffering. So this is one way of helping others.
Yeah, this is really amazing. You know, I think a lot of one of the greatest thing that we work is more than just the projects and programs. It really is to really the product we ship to help the customers. I think
community help, right? So
yeah.
we supported a lot of small business, individual borrowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, without additional funds, they would be closed.
For sure, for sure. This is definitely a challenging time for business and individuals. Okay, look, Patrick is putting his mask on. We have people coming to talk to him. So yeah, same for the company where I think Patrick's working at the Chime, which is also a financial institution, not institution, financial company for mobile banking for underbanked customers, consumers. So I think it's really cool. So Aditi, what space is your company?
So I worked for Microsoft for longest period of time. And prior to that, I did work for two startups and Johnson and Johnson. But for 16 plus years, my work history has been with Microsoft.
Nice, nice. So we have a couple of questions coming from the member on how do you, so there are two types of program managers, over to simplify, right? So one type is to work in a larger company and complex structure. It's a new set of challenges, the really complexity of a smaller list of things, right? Maybe a few programs, but a very large, complex. And a lot of program managers are aspiring program managers wants to know, say, hey, how do I get a program manager role at Microsoft? How do we get, how do they interview people? What kind of experience they are looking for? Would love to hear a little bit from you. How do you get into Microsoft? Because you're working there 16 years, and earlier in your career, you're probably not as experienced as you are today. So it's always great to hear, how do you break into a company like that? And what they look for, and if you were to give anyone, the younger self, so to speak, into a bigger company, they want to learn more around larger company, larger complex programs, what would you recommend them to look for?
Yeah, so my journey actually was very non-traditional, just like Patrick's. Like I started into program management not being a program manager. Like I started with Microsoft not being a program manager. I was recruited as a consultant with Microsoft's consulting services. So the entry point for me was being technical and being able to understand solution architecture, being able to design architecture, 3-tier architectures, and discuss with architects, engineers, and be that liaison between business, the customer's business side, and the technical teams between customer and Microsoft, and be able to see the gaps between what business wants and what our technology can offer on the Microsoft stack, and then fill those gaps with either custom solutions or process and policies, or working with product teams to put it into our roadmap. So I did a lot of that liaison work early on for like
Mhm.
8+ years with Microsoft in that consulting role. And grew up the ranks to take on more and more leadership positions where I was then overseeing the work of other technical teams, both customers and Microsoft's, like large scale distributed teams, which get me to started ramp up on soft skills that are needed in program management, which is how do you do conflict resolution? How do you align teams on a shared goal purpose? How do you do risk management upfront, cross-functionally? So when I started doing that, I started finding myself enjoying that more over and above just working on technical aspect, the solution architecture,
Right.
coding. And that got me then into looking at roles that would match. And actually, for me, the progression within Microsoft into program management was I was always working on something that the other team needed, and they saw me plugging that gap. And they reached out to me and approached me to say, hey, we have this new role. We see you doing such a great job at it in this IC role. Can you take on this role for us and scale it out?
Mhm.
So like, for example, there was a Microsoft's incubation team put together in 2010 or 2009 to launch and incubate Microsoft's first managed cloud offering when the cloud was still, a new term.
Right.
And so they saw me doing this so well within few of our Microsoft strategic accounts that they wanted to scale it across North America, across EMEA, across our partners. And they wanted to create a program, and they recruited me to be the program manager. So for me, the journey has been, you start off technically, you're really good, you can wear both hats, business and technical. And from there on, you start taking on more leadership roles where you are working with people and trying to get people to align on goals and resolve things. And from there on, I think, of course, I also did certifications in this path. So like I took PMP certifications. I took soft skill certifications around communicating with impact, and recently my certified Scrum Master. So you always also have to keep adding on to the certifications in whatever career path you want to go towards. And so my recommendation would be, I guess, to wherever you are interested in, just start doing those either as a side project or as a career certification or as something that you can add on in as a small step towards where you want to go.
Right.
So,
It's actually very excellent. There, I definitely seen people saying, "Hey, I'm an engineer, I'm a QA, and I want to be able to go to program management. So how do I get into program management? And what what certification I should take, or classes I should take? And then the other part is, what am I going to be missing? So let's say today I'm like you solution architect, or you're a QA engineer, or a developer engineer, and you say, well, I looks really cool to be program manager. So what should I what should I be focusing on? How would you what are you missing, and what would you make this jump earlier? What is a sign to know if you are making the right track or not?
That's a great point. That's awesome. Yeah, because I was missing, like, I wouldn't say I was missing. I was actually looking at clues as to what I'm enjoying. So in any project, what are the things that are making things exciting for me, and something that I look forward to coming to solve for next day.
Right.
And I felt that just working cross-functionally across teams, aligning them to deliver on the big purpose, just motivated me, excited me, and also connecting it back to customers' business needs. And so I felt that program management, even though I wasn't officially looking for the word program management, but everything was just what I was doing just led me into a role, even though the title of it wasn't program manager, it was like on worldwide onboarding manager.
Right.
But what I was doing underneath was running a program. So I would say don't just go by the title, also look at the responsibilities in that project. So sometimes in your company, when they are trying to launch something or they're experimenting with something and they come up with some roles or responsibilities where you feel that that you can contribute, I would say jump on it. Just don't look for the title, program manager per se.
Right.
Also look at the responsibilities and keep adding them under your belt, so that when you formally apply, you can actually reflect back from those experiences.
Right. Right. Excellent point. And I want to kind of just switch around a little bit. And Patrick, if you get a moment to share as well, I know you come from, like Aditi came from a technical background. You probably came from, I don't think it's a very technical background. So how did you get into program management? What do you think? What did you think in the earlier days? Is it something you wanted to do? How did it relate to previous experience? How did you evolve from there?
Yeah, so very non-traditional, non-technical, even though I did have, like, my bachelor's is in computer science, but
Oh, that's good.
well, I haven't, well, so it stemmed from that. What I realized when we had our capstone project, at that time we were coding in Perl, Ada 95, and Cold Fusion. So it was a long time ago. And it was a group of 5. And at that time, we were trying to develop online testing. And that wasn't a thing before. And so it was exciting. What I realized was I wanted to be the nexus of all the different developers in trying to help them get unblocked, and also keep a focus on the goal. What are we trying to achieve? And also making sure that the scope is met, right? That was the early days. And I felt a rush doing that. And yeah, I wasn't a great developer at all. And then after that, there was, I served in the military, which made my knowledge outdated. And most people that went into the military academies end up either in consulting, leadership consulting, pharmaceutical sales, or construction project management. There isn't the common theme is that you're a self-starter, very disciplined. You don't need a lot of management or leadership from above. You're able to function independently, right? So I progressed in that career, and I love being able to see the end result, have a visual of it in any of the projects that I worked on. And I became a, what do you call it? A digital producer for a startup. It was called This Moment, and the product aggregated social media content and created websites. So I was the one that worked with brands or other agencies to launch these websites. After launching so many of them, I was able to actually handle 10 or 20 projects at the same time. It was like building homes for me. It was the same. It was very repetitive. I was able to build a template. I shared that template, grew it with the team, and I wanted more. What can I do to help the organization? And I fell into the Scrum Master role. I didn't know what it was called before. And that was when I took my CSM certification, which helped me understand the lingo at the time. What is Scrum, stand-ups, all of the tools. So that's where I started learning more about product engineering. And that was when, so after 2 years in that role, I played the product manager, TPM, Scrum Master. So it where you wear a lot of hats. So one advice would be similar to what you said, Aditi. Don't focus on the title, right? Focus what excites you about the role. Be open to looking past a specific set of roles and responsibilities, and that will allow you to grow. And then I met Becky at Big Commerce, and one of the things that struck me during that interview was, Becky, you were very upfront about, hey, you're not very technical. And in my head, the defenses pop up. Well, I am. Like, I've been working with engineering teams. But you were completely right. I wasn't fully immersed in what the team was building. And so that energized me, that challenged me into wanting to be more technical. Like, I wanted to get to that spot. And that, that opportunity led me to my first official TPM role. And what excited me about that role was it wasn't fully defined. You have a set of roles and responsibilities, but my mindset was, how can I help the engineers or other team members come together so that we can launch whatever it is or achieve the goal? So advice with that is keeping an open mind, and also, how do you land a job like this? Be really honest with yourself and what you want to achieve, and communicate that to whoever you're interviewing with. Look, I may not have the technical chops, but these are the things that I did. These are the activities I did to help achieve maybe this project, the collaboration, the cadence in meetings, risk management. Show how you solve problems and provide solutions. And I think that will open up more doors than just saying, oh, I know how to code in Python or Java or whatever, and I know how to architect. Yes, it's good for TPMs to know those things, but at the core of it is, it's getting groups together, collaborating, and creating a plan so they can move forward. Sorry, I got long-winded. I apologize.
Oh, it's very helpful. I think, Aditi was shaking, it was nodding your head, right?
Yeah. It was right on the dot. You said it so right. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I think the one of the interesting thing that I think you have both or either hired as a hiring manager yourself, forget about the title, right? The hiring manager / director, whatever. You hired program managers in the past, and you also interviewed for program manager positions in the past, internal, external. I would love to hear a little bit from you on, as a hiring, either as a hiring manager or hiring just for your team member, what are the important things that you look for when you look for a new TPM or program manager to your team? So that's question number one. And I'll go to question number 2 second, so then we can have a shorter turn each.
Okay, I could start with mine. So I've interviewed for, TPM roles, junior, senior, but the core things I'm looking for would be adaptability, an ability to look beyond the current scope of things, and how the person is able to communicate that effectively, and how they can provide solutions. Or if they're just new to the team and they don't have the solutions right then and there, how do you facilitate that conversation? Is it just plugging and playing in a spreadsheet, or is it like, how do you dig deeper? To me, so those two, and also tenacity. What do you want to learn in this role? Yeah, So those are the three top things that I look for.
That totally makes sense. What do you think, Aditi?
Yeah. So recently I have not done interviews like where I'm interviewing somebody else, but I've been part of few interview loops myself. And so the trend that I've seen at larger companies, big companies who are looking for TPMs, is that they want to put it into three buckets. One is your system design skills. Can you understand the big picture? Can you communicate the big picture? And can you then also dig deep into each of the components? And because you would be working with engineering, if it's a technical PM role, you would be working with technical teams. So your ability to communicate and understand and dig deeper into the requirements and assumptions, and being able to scope the problem to say this is what we are going to deliver. I think scoping is the essential thread that I've seen in interviews that goes beyond just your technical skills. So whether it be program management, the second bucket being program management, or technical, the system design, being able to scope, because program management is about scoping. You have to put a boundary, you have to put a circle around what you're going to deliver within the timeline and with the resources. So how do you go about scoping it from technical side first? How do you communicate that? Then going into program management as to then how do you plan? How do you structure? How do you communicate up, down, across? And how do you do risk management? I've seen questions come around risk management, both proactively and as you go along the project. And then how do you do conflict resolution? Because that's one of the big roles of a program manager, is to resolve conflicts, align teams, influence. How do you remove roadblocks? So that was another second bucket. And the third bucket I've seen is more around the behavioral side, where they would like to know, what motivates you, and how do you define success? How do you measure success? So I think your understanding of measurement, of how do you measure and quantify the program goals, and then how do you deal with customers? Like, what do you think? Do you have a customer first mindset or not? And then of course learning. How do you learn? So those are the aspects that I've seen in my interview loops with big companies, is those three buckets: technical, program management, and system design, program management, and third being more around your customer mindset, growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very true. It's very, very true. What would be, I would flip this around to saying, what are the major sort of the red flags? Nobody's perfect, but sometimes that red flags also help us to say, hey, these are the things that, as would-be program manager or even current program managers, these are the things that I didn't realize is a red flag to people. Maybe I should pay attention. What do you think? What are the red flags or some things that could be good program managers that didn't do as well, that could be detrimental to his or her career growth? What are these in your mind?
For me, I would say one of the red flags, I say it as a red flag because I made the mistake before, right? In my past, I thought that the goal of a TPM was to drive and execute results. And I was only focused on that. I was not focused on the people early on in my career. But focusing on the people and being comfortable with ambiguity is, a trait that is highly valuable. So the red flag is, look, we have these processes, we have a million of them, learn them, internalize them. Each team is different. And so you have to get to know the team in order to apply what could fit for them, because it's not a one size fits all. So being able to, again, I mentioned adaptable, flexible, and also being comfortable with ambiguity, right? When you are with a team and you're looking at all the things that they're doing, there isn't a secret sauce where you could just see it, okay, put it in a plan. You have to have those conversations. And if you can't build that relationship, then you won't be able to dig into the core of what they're trying to achieve. And ultimately, our role is to be able to communicate what the team is doing and simplify it. And if you're not able to do that, if you're confused as what the team is doing, then there isn't an alignment, and then you're just causing friction. So, yeah.
Yeah, spot on. I think one of the things definitely a challenging part is just a by the book kind of program manager. And, sometimes it's just because of inexperience, but a lot of times people go take a class certification, they just apply what it says and to real life. And it's always, you get a lot of challenges of, because you don't understand the team dynamic nuances, and then you try to kind of just buy the books, it's challenging for sure. So Aditi, what would you think?
Yeah, actually, Patrick hit it on the head. I feel the people side is what, if you neglect, and which is what happens early on in program management career that I've seen, is that you get so focused on the program deliverables and the timeline that somehow you end up not putting equal and even higher emphasis on the relationship that you're building to get people to work together, collaborate. And by relationship, I mean empathy, really, in what each person's goal is. So if you're only focused, like the thing is, in program, there are so many stakeholders when you're working in a program, that if you don't understand and go deeper, multiple layers into the goal of every stakeholder, of course there is a shared goal, a shared vision, but then there are other either competing or complementary goals that those other stakeholders have. So if you don't dig deeper and find those other goals, it's harder to create win-win solutions. It's more, you would be more prone to having conflicts. And in order to dig deeper into those other goals, you have to have empathy, right? And so I learned over a period of these years is that you have to, practice stretching yourself and keep learning how to apply empathy in understanding the goals, as well as creating those mutual win-win solutions when there is a conflict. So the people side has to be, I guess, the most important in a program manager, and that would be a red flag if the person has had situations where they're not self-aware of that, or they give examples where it comes out that they haven't yet unlocked that piece yet. So
yeah, I think you're spot on. It's very interesting sometimes where the success of the program it's not just the success of executing, planning the task and outcomes. Really, it's almost like an ecosystem of success of the program, as well as the key stakeholders' goals are met in a way that's ideally optimized across the board, right? Because it's never something like you do it, it will be done. It's an ongoing process of of our career, of the company, of the market we're in. So it's definitely spot on. I think that's definitely something you see the senior program managers are focusing on more than just the program itself, the execution, the delivery, the plans, and the issue tracking, and more about understanding the greater ecosystem of the program itself, the stakeholders, their needs, the conflicts, so you can balance it out, because it's a continuous process. Totally makes sense.
Yeah. Could I add a couple more? Well, when Aditi was mentioning self-awareness, what came to mind was this role is not a hero role. You're invisible. It's not, oh, I'm the superstar. It's not that. The team is the superstar. They're doing the hard work. You're helping facilitate that they're successful, they're efficient, and they're focused. If, the red flag would be, oh, look, I launched this, I launched that. I didn't really do anything. All I did was help create a visual that everyone can rally around and march towards that beat. And ultimately, my goal in this role is to step away so that the team can learn how to plan on their own and have that framework and foundation so that I can up-level myself. I don't want to be in that role in that team. I want to keep moving forward. You mentioned being more operational, learning each team so that you can cohesively train them and perhaps turn it into portfolio management, because that's what ultimately needed by the business, and that's where our value goes into. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. It's definitely true. I think I talk to a lot of program managers. In fact, currently I'm interviewing for Chime, and Chime's hiring 4 program managers. Patrick is the first one started, and there are a couple of them still open. And as I was interviewing a lot of candidates, I definitely see a spectrum of different backgrounds, a spectrum of different experiences. Some of them are very strong in tech ops, migrations, and data centers, and that's a whole set of challenges. And some of them are very much into like a scrums, the teams, and then you see those. I'm not saying these are not important, just relevant to the role, right? And then you see some of them are more suitable for the roles, are the ones who really think about the product, think about things on an ongoing basis, think about your ecosystem of stakeholders, and also think about enabling the team so they can up-level themselves to create a broader impact instead of nothing wrong as in the trenches and working with the team, but a really good program manager, I think it will be, you do it in the beginning and you get your team set up and they can run for the most part themselves so that you can up-level, create more impact. But I just want to pause here for a while and for a minute and hear from you on sort of like, hey, you see your career. I think Patrick touched upon that a little bit. See your career, where you're going, and how either the pandemic or the way we work today, does it make anything different from what you're thinking?
For me, in this uncertain period of Zoom meetings, so coming into Chime, one of my first challenges or my first assignment was to help the team get through an AWS migration. So they're migrating from Rackspace to AWS, and then also managing the tech ops team, because they're handling a lot of requests and they're just doing. There isn't necessarily a plan or a goal for that team. Do I know a lot about tech ops or migrations? No, I don't. Can I design an architecture? I have an idea of one, but no, that's not my superpower. My superpower is being able to tease through what team members are doing and what they're interested in, and where they want to get to in order to help them plan for, you know, whatever goal, you know, they're trying to achieve. In this case, it's AWS migration. The difficulty during this period is being able to connect. I've been playing many different roles. Like I'm in Jira, cleaning up, looking at tickets, responding to tickets, because it's helping me understand the infrastructure of it helps me understand the platform, but at the same time, it helps me understand how each team member works. And the pandemic makes it difficult to really get to know team members and for them to get to know me. And I've scheduled multiple one-on-ones outside of the regular stand-ups, outside of the regular, hey, let's talk about your scope of work, because I don't want them to see me as just that. There's more to this TPM than, oh, let's talk about Jira, let's talk about planning, let's create spreadsheets. It's more than just that. So navigating around building those relationships through this medium is, you know, it's challenging, but it's been great so far at Chime.
Would you like to add something, Aditi?
No. I mean, yeah, except that, yeah, it is a hard time to be able to have, like, especially for those who are entering the work, you know, the company as a newcomer,
Mm-hmm.
and to build those relationships offline, remotely, I think is the most challenging part that I can see here. But I worked remotely for majority part of my career, and I didn't see that as affecting my ability to make an impact, to collaborate. Could in person would have been better, probably, but as far as execution side, you know, I didn't see any problems. But yes, I think if you think about, like, again, empathy and building those relationships outside just the day-to-day tasks, learning and you're being the new face in that company, how do you actually get to know those teams? How do you even navigate the organization structure? Yeah, those will be the big challenges for people who are joining now in these times. So, and I don't have an answer.
It's interesting.
Oh, no, go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they're almost like a three-dimensional of collaboration, or, you know, or three-direction, right? So as a program manager, you're obviously working with your team, and building a rapport with the team is really important. As a program manager, we will work with each other a lot, right? So dependencies and otherwise, and then friendly contention on resource needs and prioritization stuff, right? And then, you know, we also, you know, work with a lot of stakeholders and executives and business partners and others. I find it's more difficult to work with that group, especially when you don't have a more in-person, because, you know, you could go meet with a VP or other group, say, hey, let's grab lunch, let's grab coffee. It's a less intentional, even though you're intentional, but doesn't come across say, hey, I want to build a relationship with you. It's just very natural, right? So let's grab coffee. It's really kind of odd to say, hey, I want to schedule one-on-one with you on Zoom. So I think that's the part I feel a little bit challenging, so to speak. And so I don't have a perfect answer. I want to share with you some of the things that I did. Was I used to work with an executive who, I used to work at a company in San Jose, and then they had a new executive come on board that's in East Coast. And I never really met him, but it's important VP to have a good relationship with. So that what we do is that we have those kind of program meetings, right? And usually I would say, hey, you know, at the end of the meeting, I stay on, we'll ask you a couple of questions. And then I use that kind of warm up to we already had a meeting, we talk about stuff, and then in the end of it, I kind of just spend 5 minutes. I was trying to run the meeting, wrap up the meeting 10 minutes early on purpose, so we have a couple minutes to talk to that person. It's not super kind of in your face, but we do have a one-on-one time. So I don't have to book a real one-on-one. That's kind of awkward to talk about things, right? Work and others. So that's something that I found was a little bit helpful for me, but would love to hear you guys, like, if you have to build that kind of relationship with the executives who you don't work on a day-to-day basis, but it's obviously important. How do you do that remotely?
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I did that, like my role, as I told you, has been remote for last 10 plus years at Microsoft. Half of my team was in Redmond, the other half all over the world in EMEA, and rest of the customers were all over the world. And so I would have meetings in different time zones. Even customers, executives were in different time zones. The way I would plug myself into at the strategic level with senior executives is ask them, and through the account teams that had that relationship already, is what are the meetings that I could be invited to and plugged into that are being run as a steering committee meetings, where I can present something, come and present, or just listen to. And even in areas which were cross work stream oriented, meaning it didn't affect my work stream. Well, it wasn't related to my work stream, but it somehow had a dependency. So even those meetings, I showed interest in joining and learning more. So yeah, I would say just ask to be invited to those meetings where you can understand what at the strategic level where they are trying to lead, and involve somebody as a liaison in between to open that conversation with that executive or with the team of people at the executive level. The other thing I would say that I did for remote work is we used Teams, Microsoft's Teams within Microsoft. So because we had different time zones and different engineering teams in different time zones, we started actively laying our decisions, our agreements, our pros and cons in that Teams channel for every project, so that every time zone could look into it, reply back to it. And so we don't have to heavily rely on meetings because we were already burdened with meetings. The other thing I did was I used to run meetings, a rhythm of meetings with the key stakeholders, cross-functional teams from within Microsoft at a regular basis. So I would invite very cross-functional team from within Microsoft that were touching the customer from different angles, account management, support, engineering, platform engineering, and I would ask us to come together twice a week for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just think on what's the pulse, like what am I hearing, where are the gaps, and how collectively we can plug those gaps. So that was very helpful. And then of course we had standing scrum meetings with the larger teams every day. And of course customer meetings that I would schedule in the right time zone depending on which teams I need. So I think it was definitely a lot of very intentional meetings with intentional purpose as to what I want to achieve, and to disseminate information so that everybody's feeling looped in. Yeah, yeah, that was what I used, and it was successful.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally hear you. Intentional meetings, right? Intentional meetings and be visible in different channels. And I think that's definitely a art and science of program management.
Right.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
It's a soft skill, the people side of, things, right?
Right.
So I know we're coming up on time. I really enjoyed the conversation with you. Anyone want to add some closing remark to this?
For me is let's keep doing this. I don't know what the cadence is, but I really enjoyed it. So maybe, I don't know, monthly or bi-weekly. And no, I think it helps energize my growing interest in this role, even though I've been doing it for quite a while now. It just helps getting to know other members or other TPMs in the business. And it's invigorating. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank both of you spending time on this. I think you're all very busy, especially in today's world. But I really appreciate it. I think we always learn something. I always learn something talking to my fellow program managers. What I will do is this: I will send the recording to you both. And if you feel comfortable, I will publish this maybe with a couple highlights, with your permission, of course. And if you, any part of it you like to trim it out and whatnot, I can do that as well. I feel this is very, very helpful for program managers, no matter you're a junior or, newer, or you are actually experienced ones, could all learn from something in this. So if I would really like to be able to post it, if you're okay with it. All right, cool.
Yes.
All
And
right.
I agree with Patrick. I think a cadence of meeting and learning from each other, I would just so much appreciate and enjoy that. So if you are willing to do that, Becky.
I'm willing to do that, and I would love to have you guys host it too.
Yeah,
sure.
round robin.
Right?
Robin.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think there are not many program managers out there, and then there are also not many program management jobs out there. And this is the opportunity to learn from each other, also expand our network, right? So I think it's very helpful for our profession, and that's something I'm passionate about. I'm been doing like a professional program manager for 15 years in my 20 years career. So, but I love the most is being the program manager that help the team to achieve the business outcome that impact the customers. I think that's like the best job ever. So, so that I love it.
I agree.
So I'm very passionate about that. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for hosting it.
All right. Thank you. Nice meeting you both, Aditi and Patrick. And have a good one. And
have a great weekend.
Have a good 4th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Aditi. Patrick. Bye.